His hands were on my waist, strong and unrelenting, pressing me against the wall of his apartment. My lips parted in a kiss that was too deep, too hungry, too desperate to be mistaken for anything but betrayal. My wedding ring dug into my skin as I clutched at his back, yet I did not stop. His breath was hot against my neck, my body arching toward him, my heart pounding so loud I could barely hear the sound of my own voice moaning his name. It was reckless. It was forbidden. It was everything I told myself I would never do. And then, in the middle of that fire, I froze. The sharp sound of my phone buzzing on the table cut through the haze of passion. I glanced over his shoulder and saw my husband's name lighting up the screen. Before I go deeper into this story, I need to pause and thank each one of you who supports this channel. To my loyal subscribers, you are the heartbeat that keeps this space alive. Your encouragement, your comments, and your support fuel every story I share. And to my new and returning viewers who have not yet subscribed, I cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button, because it is the very energy that powers this journey. Do not forget to drop your thoughts in the comments immediately after this introduction. I want to hear what you think about what I am about to confess. Now let me introduce myself. My name is Claire. I am a 34-year-old American woman, born and raised in Texas, now living in the suburbs of North Carolina. I have been married to my husband, David, for 11 years. He is a good man. A stable man. The kind of man every woman says she wants, loyal, dependable, hardworking. Together, we have one daughter, 9 years old, who is the light of our lives. From the outside looking in, we are picture perfect. The neighbors see our Christmas lights strung neatly, our lawn trimmed, our smiles at family barbecues. But inside our marriage, cracks had been growing. The man I betrayed David with is named Ryan. He is 37, a fitness trainer at the gym I started going to last year. At first, it was harmless. He encouraged me when I pushed myself on the treadmill, teased me when I struggled with weights, and celebrated my small wins. His charm was effortless, his confidence magnetic. And when my marriage began to feel like routine, nights filled with bills, chores, and silence, Ryan's attention lit something inside me I thought I had lost. I told myself it was nothing. Just a friendship. Just innocent conversations that gave me a little thrill. But late-night texts turned into coffee runs, and coffee runs turned into long drives where our conversations grew too intimate, too dangerous. By the time he touched me for the first time, brushing his fingers against mine as we walked out of the gym, I knew I was standing on the edge of something I could not control. That night at his apartment, I crossed the line. The Christmas tree in the corner twinkled faintly, holiday music playing low on his speaker. The world outside was festive, pure, and joyful. But inside that apartment, I was betraying everything I had promised before God and family. When David's name flashed across my phone, panic surged through me. Ryan smirked and whispered that I could let it go to voicemail, but my hands were trembling. I pushed him back gently and grabbed the phone. I answered, forcing my voice steady. David's tone was calm, casual. He asked if I wanted him to pick up dinner on his way home. The normalcy of it shattered me. I lied easily, saying I was at the grocery store, that I would cook something simple. He trusted me. His voice carried no suspicion, no anger, no reason to believe that while he was out thinking of me, I was pressed against another man's chest. When the call ended, I turned to Ryan. He pulled me back in, his mouth finding mine again, his touch insistent. I wanted him, but I also hated myself. I let him have me anyway. My body betrayed me, and my heart twisted with guilt. Later that night, when I drove back home, the glow of our house nearly blinded me. I saw the family photos lined up in the window. I saw David's car in the driveway. I saw the innocence of my daughter's toys scattered across the lawn. And I felt like a stranger pulling into my own life. Inside, David kissed me softly on the cheek, his eyes tired but loving. He carried groceries to the kitchen, humming a tune, completely unaware that his wife's lips were still swollen from another man's kiss. My daughter ran to me, hugging me tightly, her laughter filling the room. And in that moment, I wanted to disappear. For days, I carried the guilt like a second skin. But here is the truth about secrets: they do not stay hidden. They fester. They grow heavy. They change you. And David began to notice. He noticed the way my phone never left my side. He noticed the way I pulled away when he reached for me in bed. He noticed my eyes darting away when he asked simple questions. One evening, as we sat in silence after dinner, he looked at me differently. His expression was soft, but searching. It was as if he was trying to solve a puzzle, trying to connect dots that had not yet formed a clear picture. My heart pounded in my chest. I knew that if he ever discovered the truth, everything would fall apart. What I did not know then was that discovery was closer than I imagined, and when it came, David's reaction would be nothing like I expected. The weight of secrets is strange. It does not crash down all at once. It presses slowly, quietly, until every breath feels heavy, until every glance feels suspicious, until every silence screams louder than words. That was what my life became in the weeks after my first betrayal. David's trust in me had been so unshakable that for a short while, I thought I could keep hiding. I convinced myself I was strong enough to compartmentalize. To be wife and mother at home, while stealing forbidden moments with Ryan behind closed doors. But guilt has a way of seeping into everything. My laughter with David became hollow. My affection became calculated. Even my smiles felt staged. David noticed. He is not a man who speaks much, but when he does, it carries weight. At dinner, he would study me across the table, fork in hand, not speaking, but watching. At night, when I turned away from him in bed, I could feel his silence thickening between us. And then came the moment that changed everything. It was a Sunday afternoon. I had just come back from the gym, or at least, that was the story I told. The truth was that Ryan and I had spent nearly 2 hours together in his apartment. I walked into the house smelling faintly of his cologne, though I had tried to cover it with perfume. David was sitting in the living room, a book in his hand, but his eyes were on me the second I walked through the door. "Where were you really, Claire?" His voice was steady, almost too calm. My heart froze. For a split second, I considered lying again. I opened my mouth, but my voice faltered. "The gym," I whispered, my throat dry. David stood, placed the book gently on the coffee table, and walked toward me. He held up my gym bag, which was still sitting by the door. "Strange," he said quietly, "because it has not moved since yesterday." The room spun. My palms grew sweaty. My excuses dissolved before I could form them. He already knew. I stammered, but the words collapsed into silence. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out my phone. My stomach dropped. He had it unlocked. He had read the messages. My secret life was spread open before him, every word, every plan, every touch documented in black and white. I expected shouting. I expected rage. I expected him to slam the phone against the wall or call me names I would never forget. But instead, his voice broke in a way I had never heard before. "Why, Claire?" His eyes glistened, not with anger, but with devastation. He looked at me as though I had stabbed him and was now watching him bleed. That was worse than any explosion of fury. His quietness cut deeper than screams ever could. Tears filled my eyes as I dropped to the couch. "I do not know," I sobbed. I was lonely. I was weak. I made a mistake. But David shook his head. "A mistake is forgetting to take out the trash. A mistake is being late to pick up our daughter. What you did was not a mistake. It was a choice. A choice you made again and again." His words were like glass against my skin. I had nothing left to defend myself with. I had betrayed him not once, but repeatedly. And he had every right to leave me. But then came the twist I never expected. David did not storm out. He did not pack a bag. He did not call a lawyer. He sat down across from me, his hands trembling, and whispered, "I will not lose my family over this." I stared at him in disbelief. "What do you mean?" His eyes locked onto mine, raw and wet with tears. "I am broken right now. I feel like I do not even know who you are. But I cannot throw away 11 years, and I will not put our daughter through a broken home. I will fight for us, even if you did not." The silence that followed was unbearable. My sobs filled the space, while he sat stiff, almost unrecognizable in his strength. I had expected him to reject me, to cast me out. Instead, he chose something far harder. He chose to stay. That night, he did not sleep beside me. He slept on the couch. But I could hear him crying into the darkness. And the sound of that was worse than any punishment he could have given me. The discovery had shattered us, but somehow, his reaction was not to destroy me. It was to hold on, even as his heart bled. I knew then that the real confrontation was not between me and him. It was between the woman I had become and the woman I once was. And the choice before me was clear. I could keep destroying us, or I could begin to fight for him the way he was fighting for me. There is a particular kind of silence that follows a storm. It is not peaceful. It is heavy, uncertain, almost haunting. That was the silence that filled our home in the days after David discovered my betrayal. He had not left, but he had not returned to me either. We lived under the same roof, moving around each other like fragile ghosts. At night, I heard him tossing on the couch. In the mornings, I caught his eyes red and tired, proof that he had not slept well. I wanted to touch him, to hold him, to beg him to let me heal what I had broken. But shame anchored my hands and sealed my lips. Ryan called me once. I let the phone ring. I realized, with a sharp stab of clarity, that he was never worth what I had risked. He was a shadow compared to the man I had promised to love. I blocked his number that night, shaking with tears as I did so. The hardest part was facing David. He was not cruel. He did not curse at me. He did not even raise his voice. Instead, he was polite, distant, formal, as if I were someone renting space in his house. That quiet civility hurt worse than any fury. One evening, about a week after the confrontation, I found him sitting in the backyard. The winter air was sharp, and his breath made small clouds as he stared at nothing. I wrapped a blanket around my shoulders and stepped outside. My hand shook as I whispered, "David, please talk to me." He did not look at me at first. When he finally turned, I saw pain etched deep into his face, but also a strength I had never truly seen before. "You broke me, Claire," he said softly. "But I am still here. Do you even understand what that means?" I broke down. My knees gave out and I fell onto the cold patio, sobbing into my hands. "I know what I did. I know I destroyed everything. But I love you. I love our family. And I will do anything, to earn back your trust." The tears that had been locked in his eyes for days finally spilled over. He reached for me, almost reluctantly, almost as though it hurt him to touch me, but he did. His hand on mine was trembling, but it was there. "We cannot go back," he whispered. "But maybe we can rebuild." Those words became the beginning of our slow healing. We started with counseling. It was brutal at first. Every session was like ripping open wounds I had tried to cover. The therapist made me confront the selfishness, the lies, the excuses. David had to relive the betrayal each time I admitted more details. But he kept showing up. That was his love language, his presence, even in pain. At home, we rebuilt in small ways. We started eating dinner together again, with our daughter laughing between us. We took walks after dark, sometimes in silence, sometimes with raw conversations that left us both in tears. Slowly, the walls I had built with my betrayal began to crumble. One night, months later, he came back to bed. I remember lying stiff beside him, afraid to even breathe. But then he turned, pulled me close, and whispered, "Do not make me regret this." I promised him I would not. And for the first time in months, I believed my own words. Forgiveness is not a switch that flips on. It is a slow, painful process, like stitching a torn fabric thread by thread. But David's shocking reaction, the choice to fight for me instead of abandoning me, changed the course of our lives. I had thought his rage would destroy us. Instead, his love saved us. Even now, I carry the scar of what I did. It will always be a reminder of the damage I am capable of causing. But it will also be a reminder of the grace I was given, and the strength of a man who chose love when he had every right to choose hate. In the end, my husband's reaction shocked me, not because he stayed silent, not because he wept, not because he hurt, though all of that was true. It shocked me because he chose to forgive. And that forgiveness became the foundation of our second chance. And so, the woman who once destroyed her marriage now fights every day to protect it. Not because it is perfect, but because it is worth every ounce of love and loyalty I can give.